Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to SkillSharp The Podcast. Today, we're discussing how AI is impacting the recruiting process and what it means to you as a candidate.
Now, from your standpoint, where it comes to recruiting, though, is it merely that with fewer jobs, do you feel like you're getting a chance then to hire the best person? Or is there still a challenge with quality as it relates to the pool that's available to you?
That's a good question. I think part of it is the talent is out there. Uh, AI will help us filter through all those candidates to get to the right, or let's say the top 10 people that get put in the top of the funnel in the interview process. So, in other words, I might be hiring for, oh, I had a lighting director position at one of our venues,
Mhm.
and we had a ton of candidates. And there's no way I can go through, let's say, the 600 people that applied to the role. Um, but what AI could help me do is filter out all the candidates that don't meet the technical requirements. So let's say with the lighting, the design, uh, for those particular shows. So it allowed me to get through, I think it was 150 people that applied, and it boiled it down to the top five candidates I should talk to, and that made my job so much easier. And I feel like I went through and got the top candidates, but you had to be able to understand what the filters were, and what the technology was to get to that candidate. The
Right,
bad thing is if the candidate doesn't have it on the resume, I don't know what to do about that.
right, right. We talk to a lot of people that are disgruntled with
Hmm.
ATSs
Oh
or
yeah.
thinking that, they're black holes or whatnot. And it's funny, people go from one extreme to another. One, they think they've listed properly what their experience is, right? Which should mean that any search that we do is going to capture that job function because it will have certain keywords that relate to that. The other side of it is they may not even have the experience, but they're thinking, how do I just have a list of keywords that will get me noticed? But I haven't necessarily put together a better, story about how I know those keywords or those skills or how they relate. So, I mean, I think I feel for recruiters, and teams in your situation, but I think it kind of speaks to why AI isn't here to replace whole functions. It's here to, like you said, make us efficient in certain functions that may slow us up or take more time that's not needed or make us allocate time differently. But it's really not here to separate how you set up your criteria or how you attract candidates or how you talk to them to um, make certain assessments about them moving forward, right?
That's correct. And I think some of the areas about the keywords, there was a time where a lot of software engineers would just put every or software language that they come in contact with. If they walked by let's say, Python, how to program in Python, if they walked by a book that said Python programming, they put Python on their resume. And oh yeah, I did that. I did a research paper in school, and yeah, I've never really programmed in Python before. It's like, but they do that because they want the keywords. They want to be noticed on the resume.
Yep. I have a crazy story to tell. I won't mention the company, but this was back in the day where people were pretty open to paying for search fees, and that's filling a position. Hey, we'll pay you a chunk of money based on the person's salary to make that hire. And then normally you'd get, let's say, a 90-day guarantee
Hmm.
that that person is going to work out. And if not, then the agency commits to replacing that person. Well, in technology, based on those, I mean, literally a paragraph, a thick paragraph of keywords, all these acronyms, right? These technology people are saying that they know X, Y, and Z, and they get hired and they wouldn't be truly certified or they wouldn't know the technology, so they would fall out. Do you know that unethical agencies, I had the experience, were about getting people hired off of relationship too, because then you end up trusting the recruiter so much that, okay, based on the resume and the way the person interviews, like, hey, I trust that this person's going to be solid. Todd, they were placing the person before 90 days in another job before you could fully even assess whether they were a good fit. And obviously taking the fee from your company, but then having the person leave before. No, I'm sorry, I said it right. It's after the
After the 90 days. Yeah.
after the 90 days.
Wow.
So it'd be like the 95th day, 100th day, the person leaves, and you're like, you're leaving, and then we somehow, I don't know how we found out, but it was that they were actually placed by the same agency. So, I mean, that's kind of a side note, but it's just it's challenging in terms of how much we will rely on technology only without having some kind of check and balance from a real human because you could get gamed.
The other thing that we're hearing is that candidates will have an earpiece.
What?
Yeah. And their agency will help them with the answers. So a question
Only
about,
in Zoom, right? Though only in Zoom, not like in person.
yeah, in Zoom. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
So, or like a virtual interview, right? So they'll get these people on online, and they're wearing an earpiece like me, a wireless headset, and they have their agency on the other line, and they're typing in the answers or whispering in the ear or whatever it is. So the candidate would, after the question, there'd be like a 2 second delay.
They'd be like, that's a
And
great question.
and you can't, necessarily know 100%, but it's like, it kind of seems weird. Or there's this one person you could hear the keyboard clicks.
No. Googling. Man, it's dirty, dirty, dirty,
Oh my
man.
God. But I think, some of the things where the AI could be helpful in filtering that though, right? I mean, I think you have those AI filters now that you can kind of think about, oh, is this coming from AI or is this actually coming from the person?
Absolutely. And again, administering next stages of the filtering or assessment where you have to have someone come and say, "Hey, great, we love your resume." Now, we call them, pre-qualifying questions, but could you also answer these questions or show us where you've done this work before? Or here's a brief challenge. Could you, take this? It's almost like the I don't know the actual term, but where people try to make sure that you're not a robot before you go into an app
Yes.
or change your password or something, and you have to do some kind of specifically visual to creative movement. I think that's where you're right. There's always going to be some form of, number one, someone controlling the AI tool to make that process more efficient. So we already started talking about that a little bit early on, recruiting using AI tools. If you could define for people what are the key bottleneck parts of the recruiting process where you feel like AI tools could be really impactful and valuable.
Yeah, I think the most time consuming aspect of the recruiting process is the recruiters finding the candidates that are qualified for the role and scheduling them for interviews and presenting them to the hiring manager.
So do this though. Take it from, because people don't even know this full process. Take it from the opening, right? Whether it be the departure or you getting the requisition or the kickoff meeting, and then walk people through the entire process.
So the biggest part of the recruiting process that I think is the most time consuming and where AI could be uh, relevant and help me be more efficient is, let's say a position is created. Let's say there's a person in a role that leaves, and we get the notification that there's an opening that's been created, and we're going to open up a new position for search. So the role is opened up in the system, and we do the kickoff meeting with the hiring manager to figure out what they're looking for in a candidate, what the interview process is going to be like. So once a position is posted, let's say we have a number of candidates that we want to talk to, maybe 250 people apply to the role. I need to weed through those 250 people to get to the right candidate pool for me to reach out, schedule a recruiter screening call to make sure they're qualified and they're presentable for that particular opening.
Mhm.
That is typically the most time consuming part of the search. So I think using AI filters or sourcing techniques, I can get to, I could probably go through those 250 candidates a lot faster than maybe even 5 years ago. But it's still the most time consuming part of a search because I have to set up a recruiter screen, interview those people, write my notes to the hiring manager. Uh, and let's say I want to only talk to the top 10 to 15 people qualified for that role. So I'll use AI tools or Boolean search tools to get down to that, let's say 15 people. And once I get that candidate pool in place, then, we go through the interview process about scheduling interviews, but the most time consuming part is getting to that initial candidate pool.
This is going back a little bit, but I used to struggle with just the process of the job description getting updated from what it was. Like if the person had been there, let's say 3 years, usually sometimes the person had been there 10 years, getting the job description updated and then ready for number one, approved back and forth, right? So everyone's on board, HR's on board, it gets value. You're evaluating the position based on the job description. So where this role may be paying a lot more now because of new responsibilities, if that's not accurately included in there, that's a problem. But using like a chat GTP or Manus or some other tool to not only put in the old job description, but put prompts saying, based on our new challenges, based on our business priority, based on X, Y, and Z new responsibility, this job description needs to convey this in a concise manner. And then, hey, this would attract the top 95% of people that are experts in this area. Now you're getting a job description that should be, even if you're going to go back in and modify it, the crux of it should be golden. What do you think about, again, some of those processes that could be helped by AI?
You bring up a great point because I think for hiring managers, the hardest part is to write a job description from scratch.
Mm,
Uh, I use ChatGPT all the time to help write a job description for stuff that I don't even no experience in whatsoever. Like I recently had a manager of data engineering. They told me what tools that they use, but I had to help them write a job description. Like, how do I do that? ChatGPT and my friend, man, and that's in that case.
love it.
And I banged it out in less than a minute.
Have them review it. I mean, it enlightens them.
It does.
So yeah, no, that I just wanted to bring that up. So okay, so now that you've posted a job, you're starting to get your flow of resumes in, you're using a form of AI filter to screen out the bulk of people that aren't qualified at all. Based on, so as you start to get candidates in the door, are there other moments of the recruiting process that are time consuming and arduous that you don't enjoy from beginning candidate interviews on?
Yeah. No, the biggest part is the scheduling aspect, right?
Okay.
Um, and there's not very many instances where the interviewers' calendars are actually updated with when they're out of the office or travel. I just see their interview availability and I book times on the interviewer's calendar. Well, if they don't have that, they're traveling that day, or they got a doctor's appointment, they got to leave the office a half hour early. They don't typically put that on their calendar, and it's the time consuming part is a rescheduling. I recently
Mhm.
had two hiring managers that had probably five interviews the other day, and they both called in sick. So the day after, I was like rescheduling those five candidates. So I was interfacing with their admin assistant because their calendars weren't up to date. I mean, it's the last thing I wanted to do.
Oh, that it hurts my heart when
Yeah.
that happens. And
So,
the candidate interviews where you have them coming in to meet 3 to 4 people.
oh, that's the worst because those interview days are, I mean, it's choreographed to a certain degree, right? When people come in and you don't want the two candidates, if they're interviewing for the same job, to run into each other. That's the last thing you want to do. I think that's where AI will start to automate the scheduling process. Um, we're probably a year or two away from having really, really detailed tools to help us with that. But I do a lot of my scheduling manually right now because the tools aren't that great.
Yeah, I mean, especially with your role and the level that will make it tough. Um, so as candidates get down the line, obviously maybe not everyone does referencing anymore, but referencing could be an easy kind of click automated process. Um, Final candidate information collection. Oftentimes, I'm sure salary and other things as part of your soft close, you're going to do that yourself.
Yeah, I typically have those conversations with the candidate directly, uh, getting their feedback. If it's still the right role for them. Uh, Now that you've done a little bit more research and you met the interviewers, how does it stack up to the other companies that you're interviewing with?
Mhm.
Are we still number one? Well, they're always going to tell you you're still number one until they get an offer elsewhere. But yeah, just stuff I could relay back to the hire manager to know that, I know you like, Johnny here, but he's interviewing at two other places. He's probably going to get an offer within the week. We need to make a decision. So, if you don't want to lose out, let's speed up the process.
Mhm.
Just to have that consultative approach. But
Absolutely.
yeah, that's where I don't think AI will ever take place of that direct one-on-one feedback.
We talked about before, I think trying to improve the candidate experience with all of your candidates in the loop or people in the pool, being able to leverage this technology to send out communications more like a CRM could be a very valuable asset in terms of, again, not just your top five that are getting, courted, but the rest of the 250 or more that have applied and making them feel like at least they're appreciated.
That, and if they're not right for the search that I'm working on now, but I know that there's going to be an opening that they could be good for, I want to make sure that the communication is there. They're staying engaged with our company because it might be no today, but tomorrow, a month from now, a year from now, they're going to be the bee's knees as far as candidate process goes. So that's where we're starting to develop a CRM of those types of candidates that we want to stay in contact with. So you're known to the recruiting team. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And always remember to stay sharp.